The Pennsylvania fog hung heavy, a damp shroud clinging to the skeletal branches of the pines. Sarah Miller, a woman etched by sun and grit, a woman who'd carved her own path through the asphalt jungle, felt the familiar tightening in her chest. It wasn't just the usual apprehension of this treacherous stretch of highway. It was something more, a premonition humming beneath the drone of her engine. 38 years had hardened her, taught her which battles were worth fighting, which were just echoes in the wind. Years spent behind the wheel of an 18-wheeler had given her a sixth sense for the road, a deep understanding of its moods, its dangers. She'd heard the sneers, the catcalls, the dismissive laughter at gas stations across the state. The "look at that lady," the "she should be making tacos." But those petty barbs were just static in the roar of her engine. They were the background noise of a life less ordinary, a life forged in the crucible of defiance. That afternoon, the noise turned deadly. The screech of tires, the sickening crunch of metal, shattered the quiet solitude of the fog. A monstrous rig driven by arrogance and speed had met its match in a blind curve. Sarah, ever watchful, witnessed the catastrophe unfold. The impact was brutal, a violent eruption of twisted steel and splintered wood. No screams pierced the thick fog, just the stunned silence that follows a sudden, catastrophic end. She reacted. Instinctively, a seasoned veteran responding to a silent SOS. The familiar adrenaline surge kicked in, pushing aside the chilling premonition. In the swirling white chaos, one beacon of calm remained. Sarah, already moving, already reaching for her vest, already responding to a fate that had chosen to speak, not in whispers, but in the deafening roar of a highway accident. The rain hammered down, blurring the lines of the wrecked trailer. Inside, a crumpled mess of metal and shattered glass, was the guy from the gas station. Backwards cap, cocky grin now replaced by wide, terrified eyes. He'd been the one slinging cheap shots, the one who'd thought he could get away with anything. Now, trapped and bleeding, the world seemed to have finally caught up with him. Sarah, seeing him like that, felt a surge of something, not anger, but a chilling understanding. It wasn't about him, it was about her. She knew what she was capable of, and in that moment, beneath the relentless sky, it became undeniably clear. With a practiced hand, she cut him free, the knife a mere extension of her resolve. He groaned, a sound lost in the downpour. Emily's frantic call, questioning, accusing, was a distant echo. "It's not about him, Emily," Sarah muttered into her phone, her voice barely audible above the storm. "It's about knowing who I am." The paramedics arrived, whisking him away, leaving Sarah soaked to the bone, but strangely calm. The encounter left a mark, a silent ache, not for him, but for the stark contrast between the man she'd saved and the woman she knew herself to be. Days blurred into a routine, the incident relegated to the shadowed corners of her mind. Then, the call. His voice, humbled, a stark departure from the bravado she remembered. It wasn't an apology, not yet, but a tentative reach, a cracked window into a soul struggling to find its way. She hung up, not out of coldness, but because she needed time to process the unexpected ripple effect of her own actions. Later, at a West Virginia warehouse, he was there, his arm in a sling, his eyes holding a quiet gravity she'd never seen. He didn't offer excuses, just a raw admission of his past behavior and a nascent understanding born from the night he'd nearly met. His end, there was a shift in him, a slow, painful shedding of arrogance replaced by a humbling self-awareness. Sarah, watching him, saw not a former antagonist, but a broken man struggling for redemption, a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. "You showed me something I'd forgotten," he finally said, his voice barely a whisper. "My own worth." Sarah's reply was simple, direct, devoid of sentimentality. "You were lucky I found you. I'm not everyone." He didn't need a sermon, a lecture, he understood. He'd seen the unwavering strength in her eyes, a strength he hadn't known. Existed not just in her, but within himself too. It wasn't a miracle. It wasn't a story with a neat ending. It was a moment of recognition, a crossroads where two lives intersected, irrevocably changed by the unforgiving storm and the quiet grace of one woman's unwavering self-knowledge. Sarah had initially assumed it was all ego, payback, a win-lose scenario. But this guy, he wasn't playing that game. He simply did the right thing, and that, more than any lecture, spoke volumes. The silence between their trailers was thick, broken, only by the desert wind's whisper. "I'm not stalking you," he'd said, "not pushing anything, but if you ever need a hand loading boxes, sweeping your rig, whatever, I'll be here, because even in silence, I learn from you." Sarah's smile, when it finally came, wasn't forgiveness. It was understanding. Change, she knew, wasn't born of honeyed words, but of genuine effort. "Don't look to me for answers," she'd countered. "Just do the work. The rest will follow." He nodded, a lightness in his step that hadn't been there before. That night, under the vast, star-studded sky, Sarah drove, replaying the encounter. The humiliations, the falls, they all flashed before her. But what stuck were the rare, potent moments when someone's transformation mirrored her own perseverance. It wasn't pride or revenge that fueled her, it was self-respect. Days blurred into weeks. The relentless rhythm of the road swallowed everything. Every delivery, every mile put more distance between her and the past. Yet, his words echoed. Raw sincerity, a heavy dose of shame, a desperate thirst for change. Then, one Texas afternoon, an unexpected sight at a distribution center. Him. He was there, among the other loaders, a blur of motion amidst the stacked boxes. He didn't notice her at first, just a guy in a work vest, gloves stained with honest sweat. Not the sheen of pretense, but the grit of genuine effort. When their eyes finally met, he looked down, like a kid before his teacher. "This isn't about impressing you," he mumbled, unprompted. "It's about starting over." Sarah didn't reply, just observed him for a beat before returning to her task. Yet something shifted within her. 2 days later, a pressure hose blew on her rig, leaving her stranded on a desolate highway under a merciless sun. She started to troubleshoot, but she needed an extra set of hands. As if summoned, a white pickup truck pulled up. He emerged, toolbox in hand. "Saw your rig. Need a hand?" A simple nod was her answer. They worked in silence, efficient, seamless. Before he left, he placed a bottle of water on her seat. "I'm not following you," he said. "I'm just learning to be where I'm needed." That night, for the first time, Sarah entertained an idea she'd fiercely resisted. Trust. Not blind faith, not for anyone, but for someone who, having scraped the bottom, wasn't seeking absolution but direction. A week later, a training opportunity materialized at a logistics firm, a program to mentor drivers, emphasizing discipline and integrity. She jumped at the chance with one stipulation: she'd choose her trainee. The company agreed. The first day, she saw him, cap straight, shirt crisp, a notebook in hand. He approached with quiet respect. "Are you sure about this?" he asked. Sarah met his gaze. "I'm not sure about you," she said, "but I'm damn sure about myself." His smile was different now, devoid of arrogance, radiating gratitude. The weeks that followed were a testament to he'd been a cocky kid, a smart aleck who'd sneered from the sidelines. But Sarah saw something else beneath the surface, a potential buried under layers of arrogance. She pushed him harder than the others, not out of malice, but because she knew that true grit only blooms under pressure. The relentless drills, the extra weight, the endless regulations, they weren't punishment, but a crucible forging a new man. He didn't complain, not once. He absorbed the lessons, the silence replacing his former taunts, respect replacing disdain. One night, she found him scribbling in his notebook. "What's that?" she asked. "Everything I never want to forget," he replied, a quiet intensity in his eyes. The transformation was complete. Months of mistakes, frustration, self-doubt, bruised pride, she'd witnessed it all. But more importantly, she'd seen the quiet growth, the listening replacing the arguing, the humility replacing the swagger. He'd passed every test, but the real test was yet to come. A storm raged as they drove back from a delivery, miles apart, communicating by radio. Then, the crackle of his voice, a chilling message cutting through the static. A flipped car, a child trapped. Sarah's blood ran cold. "Stay put," she barked, her instructions a blur of urgency. Then silence. A silence broken only by the drumming rain on her windshield. She raced to the scene, finding him, mud-caked and drenched, a child cradled. In his arms, his clothes stained crimson. He just breathed heavily, his eyes filled with a potent mix of terror and determination. No triumphant boasting, just raw, unadulterated action. He'd saved a life. Later, under the relentless downpour, she asked, "Why?" His answer was simple, devoid of self-aggrandizement. "You taught me never to abandon someone, even if they don't deserve it." The company offered him a permanent job, a golden ticket to stability, but his only condition was to continue training under Sarah. He knew his journey wasn't over. Now he's a leading instructor, teaching highway safety, conflict resolution, and the quiet power of genuine leadership. No one would ever guess he was once that sneering kid. Sarah, in turn, watches his growth, a testament to her belief in the potential she saw, a potential he'd discovered within himself in the face of adversity. The rain had washed away the old man, leaving behind something far more valuable. He cruises by in his battered blue truck, a man who doesn't look back, just a quiet grin when you wonder how he got here. His answer's always the same. Sometimes it's all about meeting someone who refuses to quit, even when life knocks them down. Some wounds heal, but some kindnesses change everything. Ever been underestimated for simply being you? Or helped someone who didn't deserve it, only to watch them turn their life around? Share your story below. Your experience could be a light bulb moment for someone else. Tag that person who let you down or who still doesn't get what respect really means. Hit subscribe for more raw, heartfelt stories that hit you where you live. Because here we don't just tell stories, we share the ride.